Hey YouTube, it's Firewoods23 again. I just want to do a quick little second video because I realized there's something I wanted to I realized I could have mentioned in the previous video. I said that you needed to be in the mood to write. That was one of the problems I'd always found writing, that if I wasn't really in the mood to write or in the zone, it wasn't really going to happen. And I realized that there was actually a really funny story. Two funny stories I could tell about that. So first off, spoiler alert. Alright, when I was first writing the Twin Blades and the Doomchasm Brigands, as everybody knows, that's my book I have published, the original idea came when I was 20. I had become interested in a British TV show called Nightmare. You can type in that into the YouTube search and you'll find Nightmare, K-N-I-G-H-T-M-A-R-E. And I was just putting up windows on the screen. I was just, playing around, and I remember I typed what eventually became one of the first chapters in the Twin Blades and the Doomchasm Brigands. The wagon train came to a stop at a city called Turnaz. I was feeling rather dusty. I had not eaten for days, and I mentioned what the guy was wearing and the fact that he was covered in dirt. And I just looked at that, and I think the only thing I can equate it to a spark, just an absolute spark. Like, okay, well, he mentioned the character. I had already created like a character or an entity who had a sense of loneliness, who had a sense of sorrow, and I just started typing. I'm like, wait a minute, well, he could do this then, and he could do this, and before I knew it, I had written a 10-chapter story, like page per chapter. I mean, I'd written something incredibly bare bones, and I was really, really impressed. I was like, wow, I wrote that. I mean, I actually wrote that, and it was just really interesting. And then throughout about a year or so, I kept on filling out the idea and coming up. Well, okay, there could be, this guy, and there could be, these bad guys over here, and they're like a bad family, and you got like the father and the mother, and you got the sister and the two brothers, and you got that. Okay, so that's going to be how that works. But then, how does the rest of it all fit together? And so I started creating, I guess, what one would call the broad narrative. Let's say look at the Harry Potter series. There is the broad narrative of good and evil in the entire series. There's the ideas of death and stuff like. There's that, and I think that's what I started to create for the Twin Blades. And so I think for that first few years, I mean, I was very, very invigorated into writing and telling that story and trying to get it crafted. And it was only the idea when I started thinking of really publishing it that I really started getting very serious about it, because my original novel idea was actually just more comedic. It was more kind of like haha funny, and it's like, wow, no one's ever going to read this, seriously. No one's ever going to take their time to read this, something that's just funny and haha, oh look, there's a joke there. Like, it doesn't work. And I have read very few books that do comedy very well. So there's that story, and that was 4 years. It took me 4 years to write that first book, and second book's still in production right now. And I remember one of the core ideas I was trying to think of for the second book was, my main character discovers his actual true parentage, and one thing that I was trying to determine in the narrative is, why did his adoptive father keep him? That was a big thing I was really trying to figure out. And I think I must have been working out in the yard or something like that. I was just shoveling, whatever. And just all angry, and well, that doesn't make any sense. If the guy took him, he was going to get killed, so why would he ever do that? I mean, why would you ever do that? I mean, what, do you just want to be a dad? And of course. And like I just landed on it in a sense of inspiration. Like, of course the guy just wanted to be a father. So that I think I remember I finished up that work that day, and I just sat at my computer and I just typed. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I figured out because I had the first part of the story, I had the second part of the story, but I didn't have that explanation that kind of linked it all together. Like, okay, this is why this happened. This is why this all makes sense. And of course, when you have that, you're like, okay, I have to think about, does that make sense with the first book? Have I contradicted anything that I said in the first book? Can I make that fit in the third act, and the fourth act? Like, can I fit this into the whole narrative? And I'm like, yes, it works. Yes, it's perfect. And that's the inspiration of writing. Like, just, you land on it, and it just fits so perfectly. Writing, I don't feel good writing is forced. I think it's a very natural, very very invigorating. It's almost like almost like being a god. Like, it's really a life creation process, because you're really creating this narrative in this world, and it has to fit and be very natural. It can't be forced. And I've seen a lot of stories where it's like, wow, that was forced. In fact, Murray123184, he commented on my one of the very first drafts of the Twin Blades, and he said, Murray, I'm not trying to shaft you. I'm not trying to do anything bad to you, but you said it, and I wrote it in the dedication to the book I gave you. You said it was a well-written piece that drones on like a high school essay. That is what you called it. And and he was right, because it was such a contrived situation I created. Like, wow, they come out of here, and there just happens to be this, and they come out of here, and there just happens to be this. And it was just so, wow, that is not good. And admittedly, what I ultimately came up with, it isn't perfect, but it's much better. It tells a story so much better than what I had, because my first story was just so contrived. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that, because it was a good stream of thought to come up with, and I should have mentioned it on the first cam upload. Alright, so y'all have a good week, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.